Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about expressions that you can use when you say this is in the first place, this is second place, these are in the mid table, and these entities are at the lower end of the spectrum. So whenever you have a table, whether it's a football, soccer table, ranking system, or which is the tallest statue, or which currency is the most valuable, you can use these expressions. Let's get to it. So, which batteries last longest? First, we're going to look at this expression. X emerges as most adjective. So, if we take a look at the batteries, since we can see that, we can observe that Duracell is number one when it comes to the most reliable. So what you can say, instead of saying in first place, you could say X Duracell emerges as the most reliable battery is something you can say. Let's see that in action with another example. So here we can see an infographic of China's rising electricity demand. So we can see China and US is down here in second place, not even following closely, not even hot on the heels. So here we can say China emerges as the most electricity demanding, or you could say China emerges as having the biggest electricity demand in the world. We go on, and if you want to talk about the worst traffic, then what we could say is, well, we see New York, so we can say New York emerges. We could say we need an introductory phrase. For example, in this infographic that compares the world's worst traffic, New York emerges as New York emerges as the most congested. So these are some different ways to say that. Next, so if you want to talk about second place, then we can say following closely. So following closely there's a caveat, because you can only say it if second place is very close to number one. For example, go to the battery, we can see Kirkland is number two. So we can say Duracell emerges as the most reliable battery. Following closely is Kirkland, which offers almost 6 hours of battery life, something like that. If you use following closely for here, we can't, because US is all the way, there's a huge gap of electricity demand between China and second place US. So here you could say China emerges as the most electricity demanding in second place, or following is the United States. If you go to the next one, we can say New York emerges as having the worst congestion. London, following closely are London and Paris. If we include Paris into the equation also. And if you go down, if you look at this one, we could say India. We could say China emerges as at least in the year 2017, China emerged as the most populous urban area, having the most urban population. Not even following, or we could say not even, we can negate it. We could say not even following closely, India comes in at second place, All right, so that's the second place. If we talk about the mid-table, then we could say, placing them in the mid-range table. Placing them in the mid-range table, which, so you can put them you can put this kind of expression at the beginning. You can also put it at the end. So, for example, here we could say, if you look at traffic, we could say, let's just say Los Angeles and Boston. Okay, let's say they're in the middle. So we could say New York emerges as the most congested city in the world. Following closely are London and Paris. Then here we could say Los Angeles and Boston have around 89 to 88 hours of traffic. Placing them in the mid-range group is what you can say. And then we talk about the last thing or the last group of entities in a table or ranking system. Then you could say at the lower end of the spectrum. For example, you could say, taking this example, Statue of Unity emerges as the tallest statue, not even following closely. Sanctuary of Christ the King is in second place at 110 meters tall. And then if you talk about the last one is the Big Merino. Big Merino comes in or emerges at 50 meters tall, placing it at the lower end of the spectrum. Placing it at the lower end of the spectrum, so you can use a present participle. Increasing the flow of the sentence, placing it at the lower end of the spectrum. So yeah, that is basically an introduction into expressions you can use whenever you want to identify and put things into a ranking system. You can say these expressions. Feel free to check out my website, memeenglishteacher.com. Here you can find resources for English lessons for all kinds of levels I teach. And there are also free content, free exercises you can do to test your knowledge on this topic of these expressions. Let's take another one for so here, what do we have? We have extreme poverty is decreasing. How can we use those expressions to talk about just one entity? Because so far we've talked about X emerges as, following closely, placing them at the lower end of the spectrum. We use these expressions for different entities. But here, if you talk about extreme poverty, there's only one thing that we're talking about, which is extreme poverty. So here we can still improvise like so. For example, we could say, in 1960, 64% of the world population was in extreme poverty, emerging as, so you need to change it here a little bit. So here you could say emerging as, so we use the present participle. Extreme poverty stood at 64%, emerging as a major global issue at the time. Then we go down, we could say by 1980, the number dropped to 44%, following closely for second place. In 2000, if you look here, in 2000, we could say the figure for extreme poverty further decreased or declined to 27%, placing it, what can we say? Placing this period in the mid-range of the table, right? So we're using the same kind of sentences. We had to tweak it a little bit. And for the last one, when poverty was at an all-time low in around 2015, we could say in 2015, 9.5% of poverty stood at 9.5%. Positioning this percentage as at the low end of the spectrum. Then another present participle demonstrating that global efforts have exhibited substantial impact. So we check it. I think it's correct. So yeah, this is a quick lesson, a quick video on these expressions that you can use for business, allowing or amplifying your business English confidence, but just general English confidence also. I hope that was useful for you. Let me know what topic you want me to make in the comment section below, Well, have a nice day, everyone. See you later, alligator.